Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Plus, a supplemental video stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's Moon Knight series, which is available for streaming on Disney Plus. In today's episode, we're going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around episode 3, The Friendly Type. My name is Keith Isles. I'm an independent filmmaker and lifelong enthusiast of cinema and television. And for today's episode, I am being joined by some equally enthusiastic guest panel to talk about this episode. So first up, joining me, I have Mr. G.W. Knight, also known as Graham Williams. Hey, Graham.
Hello there. Thanks for having me back, Keith. All well here, thank you. I've just enjoyed a long and lovely weekend, a bank holiday weekend in the UK.
Indeed,
it's been sunny, it's been lovely, and we even had a spectacular April pink moon last night, a full moon here. So it really got me in the mood for this.
Fair enough. Well, talking of getting in the mood for this, joining us somewhere en route today, we have Backseat Pete and Backseat Barbara Mealy. Welcome. How you doing?
Doing well.
Where are you guys?
Somewhere in the northeastern United States.
Yeah, we're actually kind of close to Walden Pond, so I thought that it would be fitting for us, sort of like Thoreau, to talk from Walden Pond, but I couldn't find it in time for the podcast, so we're here. Somewhere near Walden Pond.
There you go. You like doing podcasts from vehicles, Pete, of late, right?
I live in my car. Yeah, it's always great.
Fair enough. And Barbara, did you meet Pete in a back seat? No, that's I won't ask that question.
No, that's a different generation's way of meeting up.
That's true. Not how people date in New York.
Now, does it?
Yeah.
you know I'm only jesting, obviously.
Yeah.
But how are you both anyway? Well?
Doing well. Yeah, looking forward to talking.
Moon knighting. Still moon knighting. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's start then by having a look at this week's episode. So Pete, do you want to do your stuff?
Yeah, I got you. Here we go. Layla gets a forged passport and catches up with Mark Steven in Egypt, who has been making friends, aka killing people, while trying to track down Amit's tomb before her followers. But too late, the followers find where the scarab is pointing and start digging. Khonshu decides to up the ante and creates a full solar eclipse, causing a meeting of the gods and their avatars, where Khonshu squeezes into Stephen Mark's body too, and tries to convince the other gods that Amit's avatar is bad and they should intervene. But he knows how to play the game, and Khonshu comes off looking crazy. Meanwhile, Layla meets up with Mark Steven, and they try to track Amit's tomb a different way, which leads to a private rich collector. And they get some clues, but it goes poorly real quick, and if it weren't for that suit, Steven would be dead. Steven puts the clues together, and they can track the tomb's location via the stars on the day she was buried. But to do that, Khonshu has to turn back the night sky, and that gets him in big trouble with the other gods, and so Khonshu gets imprisoned in a statue. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, a lot to talk about tonight, a lot of questions. But before we do, just a quick look at this week's credits. So once again, this episode was directed by Mohammed Diab, who we've spoken about before because he did episode 1. He's an Egyptian director. But this episode was written, credited here by 3 writers, Bo DeMeo, Peter Cameron, and Shabir Pizada. Their credits, Bo's previous credits have included the originals, The Witcher, before getting involved with Moon Knight. So writing credits there. Peter His credits include WandaVision, so he's already been involved in the MCU, as it were. The TV series Carnival Row and The Magic Order. And Sabir has previously written for Person of Interest. I don't know whether you remember that show, folks. The Crossing TV series and Roswell, New Mexico before getting involved with this. So we have a trio of writers for this episode. The other thing I wanted to point out, because I just think it's only right to do, it's a bit sad news, but this was the first episode to feature French actor Gaspard Ulliel. I think you pronounce that. I hope I've pronounced his name correctly. Playing Anton Mogart, or Midnight Man in this. Very sad that recently, at age just 37, Gaspard was involved in a skiing accident and sadly died shortly after making this show. He's well-known actor, as I said, particularly in France. He played Yves Saint Laurent in the biopic, but he's probably best known to most audiences as playing a young version of Hannibal Lecter in the 2007 film Hannibal Rising. But as I said, it's very sad. He was great in this episode. It's very sad news, but I thought it would be right to mention that. So our thoughts are with his family. He did have children, and yeah, our thoughts are with them. But anyway, to move on to more happy things, let's get into this episode. So as the novice here, as the one that's not familiar with the source material, I'm still very much trying to figure out what's going on. We did get a lot more information in this episode. Question I've got for you, it might be obvious, but I don't know. I'm still playing catch up here. But I felt like we're dealing with another personality as well with the character, even though Stephen and Mark is it Mark? Yeah, Stephen and Mark are present in this episode. The fact that all of the killing that happens, Mark seems to deny knowledge of, makes me wonder if this is a bit like James McAvoy's character in the film Split, and whether we're talking about many personalities. And I wondered what you guys' thoughts on that was.
Yeah, I think they started hinting at it, right, with just that one line. So I think we are seeing a third person who also apparently is somewhat of a I don't know, what's the right word, trained killer? I don't know, but somebody who knows his way with a knife. Yeah.
I'm super excited about this. I'll jump straight in there, guys, because from Moon Knight and still to current Moon Knight, we've always had the minimum three. So we've got the Mark Spector already. We've got the Stephen Grant. We haven't seen Jake Lockley yet. And, a third person, I was watching this episode with my wife and I went, oh, we're going to see Jake. All of a sudden we didn't. So a bit more anticipation, a bit more suspense there as well. But from the original, here, he's the taxi driver guise. The disguise that Stephen, the billionaire Bruce Wayne character or disguise takes on, so he can be more close to the streets effectively. So now that they've changed things around with Stephen, not making him a billionaire, making him a mild-mannered vegan Londoner, I'm wondering now if they've changed it for this potential Jake character as well. Yeah.
Okay, Barbara, is this a character that you've mentioned before? I know you've got some familiarity with the source material, and I think you mentioned a taxi driver once before. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly what Graham said. That Jake Lockley is the personality that drives the taxi. Mark Spector is the rich playboy. But I actually don't remember Stephen Grant. I don't think has come in where I'm at in the comics yet, so I'm not sure what his presentation is.
Yeah, those three guys were right in the late 1970s. These years. So again, because I've got the source material here, I can dip in and out, and I'll be dipping in again for another character that Keith's already mentioned, which got me a bit of a tizzy as well, which was excellent. But more for Pete and Barbara, my lovely wife actually treated me big surprise. So she got me the newest. So she actually got yes. So this one, which is written published last year, 2021. So I've got the originals now, and not quite the most up to date, but close to as well. So as I mentioned before, I'm using this TV series now is giving me a foundation, a springboard into the Moon Knight comic verse too. So lots more to read and lots more to geek out on.
Fair enough. And is this? I mean, in terms of how they're doing this, I mean, is this very close to the source material, or is it quite a tangent that they're going on here?
Well, I'm seeing a tangent. I know Pete and Barbara have read different stories to me, but the characters are coming out or being presented to us, but they're totally different. Look at them, Stephen Grant. Absolutely, there's no way he would have been working in a museum in London in these comics. It wouldn't have been sexy enough, I don't think, in the 1970s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
in the current run, it's very much Moon Knight only. He's always in that 3-piece suit. He doesn't take it off. He doesn't take off the mask. He is fully consumed by the Fist of Khonshu persona.
In Mark Spector.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, one of the things I kind of liked is this was a very different episode to what we got with the first two. Obviously, I was much less distracted with it not taking place in London. I'm not so familiar with Cairo. Was it Cairo?
It was Cairo.
Yeah.
But I have been there, but not that familiar with it geography-wise. So I wasn't as distracted by that. But also with the with the Mark personality being, I guess, more prominent in this one than Stephen, it feels like it's kind of, obviously because Stephen's in the reflection now, it feels like it's sort of flipped the other way a bit. But it felt quite different. What did you guys feel about this one?
Yeah, I thought this one was sort of a step back in terms of like pace and excitement level. It also the storyline got a little bit muddled for me because like the whole, like the Stephen Mark drive during this episode is to stop the Amit people from finding the tomb.
Right.
But literally the first thing that happens in the episode in Egypt, right? The very first thing that happens is Layla gets her passport. But then the very next scene is the Amit followers, like Ethan Hawke, finding the tomb and saying, start digging. And so like the sort of the stakes were a little bit off for me. Like I didn't quite get it. I was like, no, they've already found the tomb. Like you're not finding this before them. I don't know what you're doing. And so that was a little bit disjointed. But I have watched it a second time, and I think maybe it's like if I was binging these, episodes 1 and 2 are like at a 10 in terms of intensity and force, and episode 3 is like a 6 or a 7. And I think that you sort of need to throttle back every once in a while, right? You can't be at full speed all the time.
Sure.
Yep.
I mean, particularly as this is the halfway point as well. I believe it's 6 episodes, this limited series.
Yes.
So, but I'm still slightly confused as to what the gods, whether what the gods want is actually kind of a peaceful thing or not. I mean, they kind of, on one hand, they sort of pretend like, oh, well, we don't really want to get involved in the human stuff. One of them said, I believe, at one point. But so I'm still a little bit sort of confused as to what the various motivations are, and I don't know whether that's just my lack of knowledge of Egyptian mythology or whether it's to do with what they're trying to implant into the Marvel universe here. But I don't know if you. I'm interested in anything you guys think about this, because I feel like I'm learning from you guys, if you like. So.
Yeah,
Go
on, Laura.
Oh, you go ahead, Graham.
No, it's fine. I didn't have much of a point on this one. I wanted to loop back to the story, but yeah, you go ahead.
I think that our quote unquote protagonist is Mark Steven, right? And Mark is tied to Khonshu. So there doesn't feel like there's enough time to get into the motives or the backgrounds of all the other Egyptian gods. I think through that the meeting, right, they tried to say sort of like broad strokes, the gods are not interested in directly getting involved. And I think at another point they called Khonshu like dramatic or overly showy, right? Yeah, I don't think we're going to get much more in terms of like the big picture, what the gods are wanting to do or trying to do. I think it's, hopefully Marvel is trying to explain Moon Knight's existence and motivations and experience, so that then when we get into like further Marvel installations down the road, he's not like a total rando character like he was in the comics.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, or trying to.
Yeah.
So,
what are you gonna
Graham?
say?
I was gonna say it'd be awesome if they expanded into like a whole range of Marvel Egyptian god avatars, right? Ra and I don't know.
Did you guys notice in the scene when the gods like met, right when Mark walks into the, I don't know if it's a tomb or
it's the Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah,
the Great Pyramid.
Behind him on the left-hand corner of the screen, there were like dozens and dozens of little god statues lined up.
I didn't see that.
No, I missed that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the detail they put into this stuff is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously everything's there for a reason. So yeah, interesting.
Although I do wonder how much of the actual Pyramid at Giza is mirror finish on the inside. That one sort of pulled me out of it a little bit. I was like, I think that's made out of sandstone, and historically, sandstone has not been very mirror-like. But yeah.
To your knowledge, yeah.
As tourists, great.
I'm not an Egyptologist like Mark Stevens, right? So I don't know. It's just, I also, from my experience of stop signs, the back of the stop signs are not that reflective anywhere I've been. But yeah.
But we are living, or we are transported into the MCU, aren't we? We're transported into
the mirror cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I forgot that part of the blip was all of signs became much more reflective.
There you go. You see, yes. So we have some magic going on here, or some non-human aspects or reality either, which I'm fine with in my entertainment these days.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have had a comedy moment with Stephen then still there, but being super geeked out, excited at being in a tomb. Again, it didn't pull me out. It just made me chuckle and made me love Stephen Grant all the more. with him and his North London accent, and oh my days. That's as good as an accent you're going to get from me, I'm afraid.
It was. I mean, you're doing a great Welsh accent.
Thanks, bud. Oh, right there. Anyway, Keith.
No.
Away from the loving.
No, I mean, well, let's talk about then, because I think you touched on it, Graham. So I mentioned that we obviously had Gaspar Ulliel playing Anton Mogart or Midnight Man. Is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Again, know nothing about this in terms of the comics, but it's a geek moment, yeah. Introducing that character.
Yeah, Barbara was right. There was so much randomness to Moon Knight over the years, but so you try to latch on to certain characters, but it's really good to have, to have Anton be like similar to who Tony Dalton played as a swordsman in Hawkeye. You get this different type of character. You get this character who is a major part of our hero. So this time it's Midnight Man and Moon Knight as well, but actually do it a bit different. And it was good to see great performance, and another pivotal scene as well. We had a lot of pivotal scenes here. A lot, there's a bit more exposition on characters, but good again of MCU just to take a character and blend it in without putting him into a costume either, because they could have, right? So,
oh, yeah, costume, all right. It's called a birthday suit.
So, not when you say birthday suit, I'm thinking nothing on, right?
That's so maybe a half birthday suit.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. There was that, but it wasn't the comic costume from the 1970s. So it was, but to actually have his name and what he does and blend it in as well, and have Layla know him, not Mark Spector. I thought that was a nice touch, because that caught me by surprise. And actually, he has a lot of cannon fodder guys protecting him as well, which made the action sequence a lot more fun for us too. So, but yeah, first appearance was in here. I marked it off earlier so I could jump to it quicker there, guys. So Midnight Means Murder is the actual comic name, and this one was number 3 here of Moon Knight. And so can you see that? So there he is there. So
oh yeah,
Mona Lisa.
Yeah, so basically he would steal precious objects or paintings and the like. So very much to what we saw in this episode too. So the fact that he has the sarcophagus that they needed. And all the other accoutrements he has, and obviously he's made a lot of money out of that as well. The Midnight Man still stands true to how it is in the comics. Much, much, much younger. Although nice that he has a beard, because he has a beard in the comics and a beard in this. But that's, I think, as close as it gets to matching what is in the comic and what's in the episodes. So, but other than that, yeah, it was great to have Gaspard as well. Yeah, again, it was my first sight of him, but not of the character. So yeah, it was sad that we won't see any more of him. But what a performance, right? Again, sinister, a really good villain. Somebody with a bit of danger, a bit of suave, something maybe for Barbara to get a bit fluttery with, and my wife too. Not for me, I'm afraid. I was just geeking out over the comic reference.
Fair enough. I actually, when the scene started and they were riding back and forth on the horses and sparring, I was like, come on, like, what is this? We don't need this extra flesh in the, like what's going on with Mark and Layla. But then it turned out to be actually introducing a character.
There you go.
Well, here's a question, because obviously I don't know. I'm guessing this show was, because it's a limited show and it's only 6 episodes. I'm guessing it was completed before the actor sadly died. Do you think we're going to see more of this character in the show then, or do you think that this was it in this episode?
I say no, because he got a crescent moon in the back of his head, or the back, following the grunt of when Moon Knight threw at him. So I think that's him.
Yeah, but nobody dies. Nobody dies in these things, do they? In the fiction, nobody dies. I
suppose he did go off into the fog, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it could be. No, that's my take on it. We've had him there. There's plenty more to come. Plenty more characters, and villains.
So the Midnight Man thing didn't really mean anything in the context of this then, really. It's just they've just used that character from the comics.
That's right. Yeah, again, I liken it to the swordsman that Tony Dalton played in Hawkeye.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I've already said.
Yeah, so you had the reference to him with his sword play, right. But in Hawkeye, he's his mentor.
Yes,
when he was becoming more of a fighter, Clint Barton, you see. So that's why they were very much of a muchness for me. So right. that's why the reference keeps on coming back for me.
Yeah, but I think the Marvel sort of like formula has been like, introduce a character like this, right? Sort of passively, 1 or 2 scenes early on, and then they come back in episode, 5 or 6 or at the end for a couple more scenes that are impactful, right? So my vote would actually be the opposite. I bet he's gonna come back. He's gonna hold some secret key to something that they need.
So all possible, because he's a gentleman thief, as it were. So he could easily have some trinket or some MacGuffin that drives it forward. Most definitely, yeah, it could be. Okay. I just noted the crescent moon dagger into the back as he rode away into the fog.
Yeah.
Moon Knight got like 6 spikes through him.
Yeah, but Moon Knight's like,
doesn't have an Egyptian god looking after him.
Not yet.
That we know of.
Or doesn't he? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Well. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So the other thing, again, it's raised more questions for me than answers, and again, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I do tend to do this sometimes. So the whole changing the constellations, the change in the sky, right? So what I'm curious about, because it wasn't just our characters that saw that. They cut away to people around the world seeing this, right? So what does that do in terms of, in the MCU, the blip, the Infinity Stones, because were they actually turning time back, or were they just changing the sky appearance? I was a little bit sort of trying to work out exactly what was going on there. You guys have a hot take on this? Did I miss something?
Mine is appreciate the incredible cinematography and don't overanalyze it.
Okay.
My somewhat nerdier response would be, why didn't they just use there's a website where you can pull up what the night sky looked like on any day of the year?
You think they have Wi-Fi signal?
She had a tablet that she was using. Anyway, that's number 1. Number 2, we're literally in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A celestial being appeared in the sky over, was it Notting Hill or whatever?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Like,
less said about that film, but yeah.
But right, like, okay, fine. Like, aliens have invaded Manhattan, yes. Right? Like no one on Earth is allowed to be surprised by anything in the MCU.
No. You could be surprised, but maybe it's not. It's just sort of like, oh, it's raining today. Oh, the stars are going backwards today.
I'd be like, if the stars are going backwards, first thing I do is like call Barbara and be like, are you still here? And how many kids can you see? Right? And it's like, we're all accounted for. We're good. Just let the stars do their thing.
They're fading. Those kids are fading. They're see-through. What's going on? It's like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But that's very noble of you, Pete, because I'd be like, whoa, this is amazing. Take a photo. Wow, it's really cool. Am I still here? I hadn't thought of it, to be honest with you, Keith, whether it was time travel, whether the Earth has just been moved. Again, Stephen was distracting me because it was all mental and it was making him dizzy. So I just... it was just one of those crazy batshit. Again, I think first episode, I did say to you guys, this is batshit crazy, and I'm happy to go along with that. Now they've set the foundation for me. Interesting if they have gone back in time, and now they are in ancient Egypt, and they have to find a way to go back to the future.
Are they back in time?
But potentially now, from what you said, I hadn't even thought of it that way.
I don't know. I mean, as I said, that was unclear to me whether they were actually winding time back or just literally just changing the sky. I couldn't.
It was just changing the sky, because then the next thing, Harrow is back in the chamber at the end of the episode, and he picks up the statue of Khonshu in prison. So I don't think it's time travel.
Yeah, and also, like, if it was time travel, all the people watching it would have been, we would have had to see them, like moving backwards and stuff. There weren't enough cinematic clues to what was happening for us to say it was time travel. I think it was just a light show.
Fair enough.
I'd go with that,
because I think that like what Khonshu's abilities or powers are, it's not very clearly outlined. So he's like the god of the moon and travelers of the night and justice and vengeance, right? But like, I would never add those things up to, I can fiddle with the night sky.
He ain't no Doc Brown. No,
right.
But I thought that line where he was like, I remember what the night is like on every night was amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really neat.
And so I did have to stop myself from being like, so does Google. But
I'd like to talk about more about Khonshu, because in this episode we had a little bit more about Layla, but a lot more about Khonshu. This is more him this time, which is a total surprise. I thought we were going to have an Indiana Jones-esque chase type episode from the last one, but we had something a lot deeper. You said, Pete, throttle back. Yeah, good. Let's have some characters and background and some story here too. And we got a lot more Khonshu, which was actually because he was more of a villainous, or at least naughty. But now we see he is the outsider from the gods. He is almost maybe the naughty one, or previously, and he is for justice, but no one else can see that. So he's done it in his own way, and he's the one who sacrificed. So he's now become a hero sacrifice for a good, after all. So I thought that was a real turn in the storytelling, and something I really appreciated on second viewing, especially. And obviously we got a little bit more of Arthur Harrow's story, backstory, I should say, with Khonshu as well. So all those, I'm just taking it back a bit from Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. Stephen Grant had, the best lines, the biggest laughs in this one, but they really didn't hit us there. They've given us a couple of episodes now. They give us so that was something for me that I really appreciated, even though it wasn't as much fun as the first two episodes. I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
I got to admit, for me, this show, I'm liking, but I'm not loving. If you want my honest feelings, I'm hoping I'm going to get it at some point. As I said, I don't know any of the background, so I'm watching this as a complete newbie who knows the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not this character and this part of the world of this character. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm not like thinking, wow, this is like amazing. I'm just thinking it's okay, and I'm sticking with it because I don't want to make up my mind about it too early and be like, oh, this isn't for me or whatever. I'm kind of just going along with it. But I think I'm actually clearly, from some of the things today, I'm probably reading too much into a lot of it as well, because I'm trying to get it rather than just taking it for what they're showing us, if you know what I mean. That's for me. But I know a couple of people who know the comics that, unlike you guys, are not loving it, and I want to try and maybe get them on another week or something just to see, so they can have their say about this. But yeah, but I'm still with it, absolutely. But I think it's hitting. I get the impression it's hitting for you guys a little more than it is for me, perhaps. But that's
Yeah,
for you.
I mean, I think that the first 2 episodes hit hard for me, and I absolutely loved them. This episode, I was a little bit let down because I had such high expectations, but on like second watch, third watch, I'm still enjoying it a lot, and so I think it was just resetting expectations, right? Like, just because it wasn't a 10 out of 10 for me doesn't mean it was a bad episode, and it's hard for a show, even with 6 episodes, to make all 6 just absolutely mind-blowing, right?
Oh, for sure.
So
you're just disappointed that it didn't add to your playlist, your music playlist, right?
Yeah, I got to be honest. The Arab hip hop in this episode did not make me love it as much as El Malouk has captured my heart. It has captured my heart to the point where Barbara does not allow me to sing the phrases anymore.
Because yes, you and all the kids like repeat 2 words from the song constantly.
Because it's a really good beat. But
before we started the show, okay, before we actually went, recorded this, the seat next to you, Pete, was empty, and I was kind of worried. Oh dear, did Barbara get so sick of it that it's single seat Pete now?
Yeah, I'll let you speak for how you like the show.
I'm really enjoying it, but I did think that this last episode was a little bit of a stumble. I thought the storytelling was really disjointed. So in the beginning, Mark and Steven are both like, who killed the guy? Why did you kill the guy? And then so it's sort of implying that I think there were a lot of incomplete implications. So like the third personality. Also, when he and Layla were talking, and Harrow implies, right, maybe that Mark killed Layla's father, which is like, whoa, right? Like,
I mean, he did do that, right? Like, we know that from the source material, right, Graham?
I don't know it. It doesn't come into the source material I've read just yet, but that's an interesting one if they've plucked it out again, rather than making it new. Yes, I would Google man kills wife's father, and then I'll filter Google down to Moon Knight.
You might get in trouble for that search, Graham. Maybe be a little more specific.
I think so. I think that's a good piece of advice there.
See if you can figure out what the night sky looked like on that day.
Yes.
I actually took note. Oh yeah, I also thought that the the meeting of the gods was like kind of stilted. Like it just ended all of a sudden. It was like, yeah, we're not believing anything Khonshu says, and Harrow seems to have something, like, I don't know if it's just that the gods are familiar with him, so they like trust him more? Or is he like manipulating or bribing another god? You know, it just sort of was over, and it was like, well, that wasn't really much of a meeting, you know?
Wasn't much of a trial.
Yeah.
I'm easy with that, guys, because I take the gods as fickle and wanting to stay out of human affairs per se, and just want to have the status quo. So if they see that they already, we already know, but have seen more this episode, that there's a lot more baggage between the gods. You know, they're siblings, many of them, and Khonshu's just the black sheep, as it were, of the family. So he's, they're not going to overly trust him to begin with, and then you get this more persuasive guy. Because I thought, Arthur was persuasive in this, and each argument Khonshu couldn't really argue against. Without Harrow having another defense there. So I was easy with that, because again, it's just, yes, you get these gods coming together, but you did have one who's, I can't remember her name, the Avatar, who does actually help Mark then. But everyone else was just like, we want to keep the status quo. We don't want to rock the boat, as it were. So again, everything that was happening, the fact they'd already warned him and then encased him in stone, and he knew that. So if he knew that and they knew that, then all the legality of it, or all their governance, as it were, they have. So yeah, that just drove the story for me. I was all right with that. Although, can I just ask a question? And because my wife really picked up on it after what I said last week about Arthur Harrow and the shoes. Could you guys hear the glass this week?
Yeah.
After you pointed that out this last episode, every time he was walking in a scene, I was like, oh no, your feet.
Yeah. And that literally put me on edge. So maybe there was that
detail.
It was very, very quiet in that shiny tomb.
Yeah, some good Foley work on this show for sure. They're very well made. I did feel a little bit that Oscar Isaac, as producer as well on this show, allowed himself to have too much fun with Khonshu speaking through him. I rolled my eyes a little bit at that. I'm not gonna lie.
I thought that the physicality of that was like kind of impressive.
It was capital A acting.
Okay. I guess it's a non-theater person. Yeah. I'm a bit of an ingenue here, but
it was just like the disjointedness between all the other ones who were like, here I am as a human and I'm possessed by a god, and yes, thank you, I sound exactly the same, right?
Yeah, that
versus Oscar Isaac, who is like, here I am as Mark, and now I am Khonshu.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
You need to record that now as a GIF. I'm sure that's just going to be memed until the end and beyond of MCU, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
speaking
an unfortunate
like
compliment. Yes, speak like Khonshu. Last week you were summon the soup. This week it's speak like Khonshu.
Although I'm making fun of that scene, but what I took away from that scene was that, like, Mark Spector, Mark Spector, Stephen Grant are, sort of like a bit of like a broken psyche, right, and troubled person. And Khonshu comes across as also sort of a broken god and a troubled god.
Yeah.
And so, like, seeing them together like that, with the juxtaposition of Ethan Hawke's character, who's so smooth and like presentable, I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
I guess that is it, isn't it? That you've got the lawyer. Basically, it's a courtroom scene, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what you've then got is the suave, sophisticated, coherent, non-crazy lawyer who is Harrow, and then you've got the Khonshu Mark, who is the mental one, and you're in court, and you're like, come on, dude, really? Take a pill. So yeah, you're not going to believe him as such. So that's why all that worked for me. You see, and they're totally all of them broken, even our dear Stephen Grant.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you go ahead, Kate.
No, go ahead. Sorry, because you were going to follow up on that. So you go.
I actually, so I had another sort of quibble this episode. So I don't understand why Harrow is chasing Mark around, because supposedly in the beginning they find the tomb, and then he spends a whole lot of time, right, trying to I don't know, interfere with Mark's very circuitous way of getting to the tomb also. Which seemed like he didn't really need to do that, so I didn't understand what's happening there.
Oh, I saw it again, because if Khonshu hadn't brought on the eclipse, then Harrow's plan would have been working more smoothly, but we haven't seen yet. Maybe next episode we'll see actually the digging is still happening, so therefore they're like the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders, they're there, and they're doing the job, and then Jones comes in. So I just saw that was a distraction for him, and he was like, okay, you could, so headcanon here, he says to his guys, you keep on digging, I'm just going to sort this moon crap out. So that's why, because everything that was happening there, so he was okay, he found the tomb, right? Then the eclipse happened, then he's like, okay, this is again a bit too much, because don't forget, Harrow is summoned to the tomb. He's the one who's taken away from the dig site, effectively, isn't he? So otherwise he wouldn't be there. So he has to go. He has to do his suaveness, and we're all going boo, hiss from the back seats. We have that, and then he comes to Midnight Man's ranch, doesn't he? So he gets there. So it's all about him finding out that actually he just wants to block Mark off, but I never see the other fellas with him, meaning the diggers, his the policeman from the previous episode. He's there at the beginning, and he's probably managing the dig site. In my head canon, I could be wrong. Next episode, it could be that he has been. It was a bit of poor writing, but I guess we may have. It may be in this series. You never know. You may be like a double episode type storyline. We had 2 great 1 and 2 episodes. Now we have 3, and we have 3 and 4 together, all complementing. So 4 will answer the questions from 3.
Yeah. I just want him to say, we're digging in the wrong place.
Yeah, they didn't remove 1 for the to honor the god who raised the staff in the first place, right?
Yes.
There you go. I mean, I have to say, I think Ethan Hawke is really stealing the show. I don't know whether you guys think that, but I know. Yeah, Barbara, not so much, right? Okay.
I'm really glad that Oscar Isaac is headlining this, because before Poe in Star Wars, a total unknown for me. He actually has a pretty extensive roster, though.
Yeah, he did all the best stuff before bloody Star Wars.
He was in Apocalypse, right? He was Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, well, that's not a good example, Pete. That's terrible.
It wasn't.
The god
wasn't a good example.
The god with the power of a hairdresser. The X-Men's hairdresser.
Yeah, I once met him briefly.
Didn't
the
ones to check out for Oscar is definitely Ex Machina, which is amazing, and Inside Llewyn Davis. Those 2 films, which are all pre-Star Wars, Poe Dameron stuff, are really good. Seriously.
Thanks for the recommendations, Keith.
Yeah, and obviously Dune. You saw Dune, right?
I thought brief, right? He had such a blip in the movie, but I thought he was great in Dune also.
Yeah, it's Oscar Isaac great in Dune. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Keith, back to you then. So Oscar Isaac in Moon Knight. You're not loving it yet, but what about his?
I don't think. I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan of the Stephen Grant stuff. I find it amusing, but the bruv and the voice and all that I find slightly grating. I'm not going to lie. I don't really buy into it. I'm like,
as an American with no ear for accents, I was like, oh, I didn't know he was English.
Keith, do you want me to hit him for you?
I know there's a lot of criticism of Oscar Isaac's accent, but but it's part of the entertainment for me, and I know certain. It's not one accent, but you would know that. I guess you guys would know all the variances of New York accents, right? Or where there would be that. So I'm hearing loads of different accents and people I've known, worked with, and their phraseology, and it's all coming out. So it's lovely that way. But no, I think he's got a hell of a range on him. His acting chops are being really tested in this one, and even though, but Ethan Hawke though, I just think he's so sinister, and not Ethan Hawke. Sometimes I have to go, right, that is Ethan Hawke, because I've been a fan of his for years anyway. But I'm loving what he's doing. I'm loving that he is this suave villain, and he's a villain as in he is villainous, but he's getting away with it. He's winning at the moment, and that's brilliant for drama. I'm really loving the fact that Arthur Harrow really is, at the moment, you don't know how he's going to be defeated, if at all.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Accent aside, I do think that the physical characterization and whatever he's bringing, and he's definitely working with the comic timing and whatever, and does contrast Mark very well, so that's fine, but yeah, I don't know, it's good,
I'm wondering if we're going to get an Irish Jake Lockley.
Oh my god!
No.
If he goes all Welsh, I think I'll leave. But no, I think if he goes all Irish with his if they dare go there. That's gonna be interesting. Swedish, okay.
You could do Swedish,
Australian,
right? French, Australian.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've got Duchamp is Frenchy after all. I wonder if we're going to get Duchamp at any point, and if he is going to have a helicopter, and if he is going to be French. Yeah, we the world is our oyster.
Cool. All right. Any I'm conscious we're about as long as the episode at the moment. Any final thoughts or comments that you want to add?
I'm interested. I feel like people are going to respond that it's not really relevant, but do we know? Are you curious as to whether Mark is the original personality, and then like because of all these terrible things he did, like I think they kind of implied that in the conversation with Layla, that like he killed her father and then he couldn't handle it anymore, and that was like the event that caused the split, and so now he has peaceful Stephen Grant, who's like totally unrelated to that history and violence, which I don't know that it's very clear in the comics, which one is like the main personality or like the original.
No, I thought Stephen Grant, right? No, sorry, Mark Spector, because he was the son of a rabbi, right?
What?
Eventually, yeah. So it's kind of split firstly between Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, but mainly Stephen Grant is the Bruce Wayne with all the money to allow him to be the public figure. But from the newer Moon Knight and some of the older original Moon Knight, it was always Mark Spector, and he was always, that's why he was had all the weapons, because he was the Marine. He was the mercenary. I know one of you guys asked me a couple of episodes ago, was he in the army, whatever, and I found out I found the reference in the comic. So he was in the Marines. So he's
Yeah.
definitely Mark Spector first. Stephen
Yeah.
Grant is the opposite of kind of the public billionaire figure. I don't know how he got his money. Whether he killed a hell of a lot of people to become a billionaire, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Well, I thought they referenced that in this too. That like he and Layla were acquiring artifacts.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
I mean,
selling.
on that note, I feel that, or I'm getting from the performances and the way it's shot and written, that Layla, even though she was obviously married to Mark Spector, I feel like she's liking Stephen Grant a lot more.
Yeah, there's a hint of that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a hint that
I don't know if it's more or she appreciates this other aspect, right? It's got to be a little bit of a head trip to see somebody that you think you know, and then there's this like completely different side of them with a different skill set, and so it's kind of like you can either be really put off by it, or you can embrace it as like, well, now I get to learn this person that I love in like a totally different way.
Yeah,
definitely. She did appreciate the maps and how gentle he was, and maybe it is an appreciation over anything that'll blossom into love, because that'll be mixed up too. That'll be layered, but I think a bit maybe too mixed up for MCU. But let's see. They're interesting.
Layla being layered. Ooh, yes.
An alliteration I hadn't thought of.
He's out.
I'm out.
It's okay. Puns and dad jokes go together.
I was going to say this is becoming, this show's getting too violent now. So, Graham, you're still writing, yeah? You're still working on your scripts, your screenplays.
I am, yes. Script screenplays taken a backseat to my novel. So second draft of my novel, still plodding along. That's called Where the River Bends. So it's a modern western based in my beloved Wales. And I did some research last weekend, which was excellent. So apart from being out in the sun and getting quite a nice little tan here, I'll be getting back into the writing again and plodding on. I need to finish it now. It's been going. The second draft has been going on for quite some months, but once I have more updates, obviously I'll let you all know.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
And Barbara, Let's See What's Out There Plus is not the only podcast that you're involved in. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've been researching and interviewing different technicians in the floral industry for a podcast I hope to launch soon called Flower Stories. You can look for that in a few weeks.
Yeah, fantastic.
Flowerstories.org.
And that's your line of work as well, right, Barbara?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent.
And there are a few existing podcasts, but they tend to talk to the people that are, really, really visible in the industry. And I think it would just be cool to hear stories of, like the people who grow the flowers, the guys that deliver the flowers, so.
Sure.
Wow.
Is that going to be a YouTube channel, or is that going to be podcast?
It'll be YouTube also. Yeah.
It'll be YouTube. And what's the show called again?
It's Flower Stories. Yeah, and the website is flowerstories.org.
Fabulous. And Pete, tell us about.
Let's see what's out there. Reach out to LSWOTcast or LSWOTcast@gmail.com. Look for us on all good podcasting apps and give us a like and a subscribe. Or you can find me personally on Twitter at Too Many E's.
There you go. And obviously check out our sister show, which is Let's See What's Out There, where we're looking at Star Trek Picard season 2 at the moment. So please look out for that dropping on this channel. Also, if you want to see any of my other work, if you go to my other YouTube channel, British Isles, that's EYLES, There's some short films, an anthology called The Urban Chiller Tales on there that I've worked on. So please check that out. And obviously, if you're here, please do consider subscribing, wrong button, subscribing to the channel, giving us a thumbs up, a like, checking out the other work on here as well. That would be fantastic. And you can also find us on all the good podcatchers out there. Any reviews or whatever, again, would be massively welcome. But that just leaves me to thank you guys for joining me once again for this. I really appreciate it, guys. And
thank you, Keith.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time on
Let's see what's out there.
Yay!